Madam Vice President, Excellencies, distinguished participants, we are living in times of transition. The political climate is divisive and human rights are openly challenged. However, the universality of human rights constitutes the foundation of the international system, and when they erode in one place, security is weakened everywhere. Amid geopolitical competition and increasing conflicts, the United Nations provides the only universal forum where all states sit at the same table. It offers mechanisms for preventing conflicts and rules that protect us from a world governed by the law of the strongest. Human rights are an integral part of security policy and conflict prevention. Many crises stem from human rights violations, and societies that respect the human rights of all are more stable and prosperous. For the past 20 years, the Human Rights Council has had a vital role in promoting human rights for every person worldwide. Madam Vice President, in wars and conflicts, those among the first to suffer are women and girls, LGBTIQ+ persons, persons with disabilities, indigenous peoples, and human rights defenders. In a time marked by disinformation and challenges to democracy, knowledge produced by independent institutions and fact-based decision-making is critically important. The High Commissioner and his office, the UN special procedures and the treaty bodies are independent, and their integrity and ability to work must be safeguarded. Without reliable information, human rights cannot be protected. Media freedom faces ever-growing threats around the world. Journalists and media workers face physical violence and harassment. As co-chair of the Media Freedom Coalition, Finland focuses on protecting journalists and improving media literacy to tackle disinformation. Across the world, the operating space for civil society is shrinking. This Council provides international protection for human rights defenders, amplifies the voices of those who have been silenced, and reminds us, the member states, of our obligations. Without civil society, human rights cannot advance. The United Nations is confronting a severe financial crisis that threatens its ability to carry out core mandates. The UN80 reform and the Human Rights Council review offer key opportunities to strengthen effectiveness, but no reform can succeed without adequate and predictable resources. Securing sufficient funding for human rights is essential for global peace, security, stability, and sustainable development. Madam Vice President, Russia has continued a war of aggression against Ukraine already for over 4 years. Last year was the deadliest year for civilians in Ukraine. Because of Russia's war, civilians in Ukraine have suffered, in addition to loss of life, injuries, torture, rape, and deportation of their children to Russia. In addition to the suffering of millions of Ukrainian civilians, Russia has also engaged in ever-increasing internal repression, threatening the life and freedom of human rights defenders in Russia. We have followed with concern how the national security law in China has limited basic rights in the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. We call on China to engage in genuine and open dialogue with the international community on the human rights situation in China, including Xinjiang and Tibet. Finland stands in solidarity with the Iranian people who have voiced their legitimate aspirations for a better life, freedom and dignity. We strongly condemn the brutal repression of peaceful protests across Iran. Finland expresses grave concern over increasing Israeli control in the occupied Palestinian territory and calls on all sides to protect civilians and lift all restrictions on humanitarian aid. Finland is also deeply concerned over the human rights situation in Sudan, Afghanistan and Belarus. Finland recommends that the United States to resume cooperation with the Human Rights Council and the Universal Periodic Review Mechanism. We are deeply concerned about the imposition of sanctions against the International Criminal Court. Madam Vice President, this is a moment to reflect on the kind of future and world we wish to build. Do we choose a society that values every person, respects human rights, and enables people to live well, or one marked by uncertainty, fear, and the erosion of rules? The Human Rights Council, with its valuable mechanisms, shows us where we stand and where we are heading. The office's work around the world provides early warnings so that dangerous developments can still be halted. Finland shares the High Commissioner's vision on the Global Alliance for Human Rights to ensure that human rights remain our collective compass. Together we decide what kind of world we want to build. I thank you.